Mr. Caldwell cut the lesson mid-sentence and said her name. Louder than needed, he held up a foreign document and told Maya Brooks to translate it. Now, chairs shifted. A few snickers leaked. The room went still. He smiled thinly, eyes on the class. Maya paused, fingers tightening on her notebook. Students watched. She took one breath, stepped forward, and the room waited. Mr. Caldwell did not lower his voice. He lifted the paper higher and faced the room, not her. He said the document came from an international partner. He said accuracy mattered. He said this would be done aloud, line by line, with no assistance. A few heads turned. Pens stopped moving. He stepped to the board and wrote 3 rules. No pauses longer than 5 seconds. No corrections after speaking. No questions from the translator. Each line would be judged as it was spoken. He underlined the last rule twice. The chalk tapped once when he finished. Maya stood beside the desk he pointed to. He did not look at her. He told the class this was not a quiz. He said it was a demonstration. His tone stayed level. His words sounded practiced. He said the document used formal register, not conversational language. He said mistakes would show immediately. A whisper moved across the back row. Someone leaned over to pass a folded note. A chair leg scraped and then stopped. A student near the window glanced at Maya, then away, then back again. The room felt narrower. Mr. Caldwell adjusted his glasses and continued. He explained the grading scale out loud. 1 error would not fail the task. 2 would raise concern. 3 would make the translation unusable. He said this was the standard used by professionals. He said this was fair. He placed the document on the desk in front of her. He aligned it carefully. He pointed to the first paragraph and said she would begin there. He reminded her to project her voice. He reminded her that silence counted as error. His delivery stayed calm, precise. A few students exchanged looks. One shook his head slightly. Another sat back, arms crossed, watching like it was already over. The laughter from before did not return. Turned into waiting. Mr. Caldwell stepped aside but stayed close enough to hear every word. He folded his hands behind his back. He said the class would follow along. He said they would learn something either way. He did not explain what he meant. Maya did not speak yet. She adjusted the paper once. The movement was small but visible. A phone screen lit briefly before disappearing under a desk. Someone coughed and then stopped. Mr. Caldwell glanced at the clock and announced the timing. 5 seconds per line. No resets. He said the document contained specialized terms. He said guessing would show. He said confidence without accuracy was worse than silence. The whispers stopped. The room held its breath without meaning to. The rules were clear now. Too clear. He nodded once and said she could begin when ready. The standard hung in the air, heavy and exacting. Every eye stayed forward. The first line waited, untouched. Maya rested both hands on the desk. The paper did not shake. She stood straight, shoulders level, eyes moving once across the page. The room waited for a flinch that never came. She did not look up at the class. She did not look at Mr. Caldwell. Her gaze stayed on the document. She shifted her weight evenly, as if settling into place instead of preparing to perform. The clock ticked. Someone in the front row leaned forward. Mr. Caldwell watched the pause and tilted his head. He cleared his throat once, softly. He reminded her that silence counted. His voice stayed even. He did not rush her. He sounded certain that time was already working against her. Maya adjusted the paper by a fraction of an inch. She traced the margin with one finger, slow and deliberate, then stopped. Her breathing stayed steady. No sighs, no quick glances, no appeal to the room. A few students exchanged looks. The expected panic was missing. One girl in the second row frowned, confused. A boy near the aisle stopped smirking and sat up straighter. The shift was small, but it spread. Mr. Caldwell mistook the stillness for hesitation. He nodded to himself, as if confirming a private assumption. He repeated the rule about pace, not louder, just firmer. He said she should begin before she lost the line. His tone suggested patience running thin, not concern. Maya's eyes moved again, this time slower. She followed the text from left to right, then back to the start. She did not mouth words. She did not rehearse. Her lips stayed still. The room filled the silence on its own. A foot tapped twice, then stopped. Someone dropped a pen and froze before picking it up. The absence of motion drew more attention than any mistake would have. Mr. Caldwell stepped closer, just enough to see the page from above. He leaned slightly, as if expecting to catch confusion in the print. What he saw did not change his expression. He straightened and folded his arms. He told the class this was a common problem. He said students often froze when faced with formal material. He said overthinking led to errors. His words floated past her without landing. Maya remained quiet. The clock clicked into the next second. The crowd noticed the gap between his certainty and her control. No one filled it yet. Mr. Caldwell glanced at the clock again and lifted his hand, ready to mark the first delay. The assumption settled in the room before the first word ever did. Mr. Caldwell faced the class again and began to explain what a correct translation should sound like. He said it would be clean and direct. He said there would be no filler words. He said the tone mattered as much as meaning. His voice carried authority, steady and instructional, like this was routine. He tapped the clock with his knuckle. 5 seconds per line. He counted them out once, quietly, to show how fast they passed. He said professionals did not wait for confidence. They spoke with it. He said hesitation showed uncertainty, and uncertainty showed lack of command. Maya stood still as he spoke. Her eyes stayed on the page. The document did not move. The desk did not creak. She did not shift or glance up. The pressure circled her without finding a reaction. The class reacted instead. A few students leaned forward, elbows on desks, ready to hear the stumble. Others sat back, faces tight, already uncomfortable. One student folded his arms and stared at the floor. Another kept watching the clock. Mr. Caldwell pointed to the first line. He read the opening phrase aloud in the original language, pronouncing it carefully. He said the structure was complex. He said it required understanding of formal usage. He said shortcuts would fail here. His tone never sharpened. Stayed cool. Confident. He stepped back half a pace and said the timing started now. The clock ticked. 1 second. 2. 3. A murmur rose and fell, cut off by the sound of the clock alone. Maya's posture did not change. Her shoulders stayed square. Her hands rested flat. She did not rush to fill the silence. The pause grew heavier because it was chosen, not forced. A student near the back whispered that she was done for. Another shook his head, unsure. The split widened. Some watched her. Some watched him. No one looked away. Mr. Caldwell kept his eyes on her, not the clock. He nodded slightly, as if allowing the process to prove his point. He said nothing. He did not need to. The rules were already spoken. For seconds passed. The fifth hovered. A pen scratched loudly and stopped. Someone cleared their throat and regretted it. Mr. Caldwell raised his hand, prepared to mark the delay. He said nothing yet. He waited for the second to complete, ready to make the first note on the board. His face showed no irritation, only certainty. Maya inhaled once. It was controlled, not rushed. The clock reached the edge of the count. The judgment was seconds from being permanent. The room leaned forward as one, caught between expecting the failure and wondering why it had not happened yet. The line remained untranslated. The time was almost gone. Maya spoke before the hand dropped. Her voice was steady, clear. She translated the first line in one pass, without pausing to correct herself. The words landed cleanly. A few students blinked, surprised. Someone near the aisle straightened. Mr. Caldwell did not react at first. He waited until she finished the sentence. He nodded once, slow, as if acknowledging effort, not success. The room held the sound for a beat, testing it. Maya continued into the second line. The phrasing stayed formal. The structure held. It was not rushed. It was not tentative. When she finished, the clock kept ticking, but the silence changed. A few heads turned toward Mr. Caldwell, waiting. He raised his hand before she could begin the next line. He said that would be enough. His tone stayed neutral, controlled. He stepped forward and looked at the paper. He said the translation was incomplete. He said the meaning was close but not precise. He pointed to a single term and said it carried a legal implication she missed. He said the register slipped. He said accuracy was not about sounding correct. It was about being correct. The room shifted again. The brief tension drained. A student exhaled. Another leaned back, disappointed but unsurprised. The moment folded in on itself. Mr. Caldwell explained why partial accuracy did not count here. He said in professional contexts close was wrong. He said near misses caused real damage. He said this was why standards existed. His voice never rose. It did not need to. He read the same line again and offered his version. He spoke smoothly, confidently. He said this was the correct interpretation. He said the difference mattered. He tapped the paper once to mark the point. Maya stood where she was. She did not argue. She did not correct him. Her hands stayed on the desk. Her eyes stayed on the document. The restraint drew less attention now than before. A few students nodded, accepting the explanation. One scribbled something in the margin of a notebook. Another checked the clock again. Interest thinned into routine. Mr. Caldwell said this was a common mistake. He said it showed surface familiarity without depth. He said it happened often. His words sounded instructional, not personal. That made them harder to push against. He turned back to the board and marked the line as flawed. He did not mark it as a failure, just insufficient. The distinction felt final anyway. Maya did not speak. The crowd did not wait for her to. The class began to detach, already moving on. Whatever tension had built now sagged under the weight of explanation. Mr. Caldwell folded the paper and said they would continue. He said this was a useful demonstration. He did not say for whom. The authority of his explanation settled into the room. It sounded complete. It sounded correct. No one checked it. Not yet. Mr. Caldwell resumed the lesson without pause. He referred back to the translation as an example not by name but by outcome. He said this was what happened when surface knowledge met formal material. His voice stayed even. The point was delivered and moved past. Maya remained beside the desk. She did not return to her seat. He did not dismiss her. The class noticed the gap. No one spoke. A few students shifted, unsure where to look. Mr. Caldwell wrote a corrected version of the line on the board. He did it neatly, deliberately. He did not rush. He explained the choice of wording once, briefly, as if closing a case. He did not invite comparison. The room reacted in small ways. A student near the window frowned. Another pressed lips together and looked down. The earlier laughter did not return. It was replaced by quiet discomfort. Maya kept her posture. Her hands rested where they had been. She did not react to the board. She did not correct the correction. The restraint held the attention longer than protest would have. Mr. Caldwell glanced at her once, then back to the class. He asked a question about the next topic. Someone answered. The rhythm of class restarted, uneven but moving. A chair scraped softly and stopped. Pen rolled and was caught. The room tried to normalize what had just happened without quite managing it. The mistake stayed on the board, untouched, official. No one challenged it. Not yet. Mr. Caldwell capped the marker and continued speaking, calm and composed, as if the demonstration had ended exactly where it should have. Maya was still standing when the next page turned. The door opened without urgency. A woman stepped in and paused near the threshold, clipboard tucked under one arm. Conversations stopped before anyone meant them to. A few students turned first. The shift reached the front before Mr. Caldwell reacted. She introduced herself calmly and said she needed a moment. Her tone was procedural, not apologetic. She said she was reviewing materials connected to the international program. She asked if this was the class currently handling the draft translation. The room stirred. A few students looked at each other. Someone near the back straightened in their seat. The interruption landed heavier than a raised voice ever could. Mr. Caldwell turned and nodded. He said yes. He said they had just discussed an example. He kept his posture relaxed. His voice stayed level. He did not step aside, but he did not block her either. She asked what document was used. She asked when it was translated. She asked whether the version on the board reflected the final interpretation shared externally. Each question was short, technical, neutral. The class reacted before he answered. A few heads snapped toward the board. Someone leaned forward, eyes narrowing. The discomfort sharpened into alertness. Mr. Caldwell said the document came from a partner institution. He said it was translated during class as a demonstration. He said the version on the board reflected the correct rendering. He offered the explanation smoothly, without defensiveness. The woman nodded once and asked to see the original document. She asked for any notes taken during the translation. She asked whether the spoken version had been recorded or transcribed. Her pen hovered, waiting. A murmur moved through the room. A student glanced at Maya, then quickly away. Another looked back at the board, then at Mr. Caldwell, trying to align the pieces. Mr. Caldwell retrieved the paper from the desk and handed it over. He said there were no recordings. He said the exercise was informal. His tone suggested this would resolve quickly. The woman did not comment. She flipped through the pages once, scanning without stopping. She asked who performed the initial translation. The question landed quietly, but the room felt it. Before Mr. Caldwell answered, a chair creaked. A student inhaled sharply and stopped. Eyes moved again, this time with purpose. Mr. Caldwell gestured toward Maya. He said she did. He added that the result had been corrected. He sounded certain. The woman nodded and said she would need both versions. She said she would review them shortly. She did not say where. She did not say how long it would take. The room held the pause. The evidence had been taken. No conclusions followed. Not yet. The woman returned 10 minutes later. She did not announce herself. She stood near the board and waited. The class noticed before Mr. Caldwell did. The room quieted in stages, like sound being turned down by hand. She said she had compared the document with the partner institution's reference copy. She said she would walk through it line by line. Her voice stayed flat. Informational. She pointed to the first sentence on the board and read it aloud. Then she read the corresponding line from the reference. She stopped and asked Maya to translate the same line again, aloud, exactly as written. Maya did not hesitate this time. She spoke once. The translation matched the reference phrasing. The woman nodded and made a mark on her clipboard. A few students shifted. Someone near the back sat up fully. The silence thickened. The woman moved to the second line. She asked Mr. Caldwell to explain his word choice. He did, calmly, citing formality and tone. She then asked Maya to translate the line again. Maya did. The difference was small but precise. The woman read the reference again. She tapped the page once. She said the student version aligned with the official interpretation. She said the board version did not. The room stopped breathing in unison. No one spoke. No one laughed. Pens stayed down. She continued. Third line. Same process. Reference. Board. Student. The pattern repeated. Each time, the student translation matched the external source. Each time, the authority version drifted subtly but measurably. Mr. Caldwell remained composed. He did not interrupt. His hands folded behind his back again. His expression did not change, but his certainty did. The woman reached the term he had flagged earlier. She paused longer here. She read the definition provided by the partner institution. She asked Maya to translate it one more time. Maya spoke. The word landed with the correct implication. The woman looked up and said the usage was accurate. She said the earlier correction was not. A chair creaked. Someone exhaled too loudly and froze. The room was silent now in a different way. The woman summarized without emphasis. She said the student translation met professional standards. She said the version shared externally did not. She said the discrepancy had already been flagged by the partner institution. She did not look at Maya when she said this. She looked at Mr. Caldwell. He nodded once, slowly. He did not argue. He did not explain. The collapse came without drama, through accumulated facts, not tone. The woman closed the folder and said further review would follow. She did not say what that meant. She did not need to. No one spoke as she stepped back. The noise that once filled the room did not return. The correction was complete. The consequences were still forming. Maya returned to her seat when told. The room stayed quiet. Only then did the woman explain how the student knew the material. She said Maya had completed certified coursework through a partner institute. The program required weekly assessments and proctored exams. Records showed advanced completion, not enrollment notes. The access came through a language exchange grant offered online. It did not require school approval. It required scores. Maya had them. The training focused on formal register, contracts, and policy documents, the same type used by the partner institution. The constraint was simple. The school tracked honors by placement, not credentials earned elsewhere. Outside certifications were optional to report. Maya never did. The classes moved on. No one asked. There was no speech, no explanation from Maya. She stayed still as the facts settled. A few students looked at her again, recalibrating. Others looked at the board, now wrong. The woman closed the explanation as quickly as she opened it. She said the verification stood on its own. She said next steps would be handled administratively. The question left hanging was not about ability anymore. It was about process. Who approved the version sent out? Who reviewed it? And what the school would do now? The answer had not been given yet, and everyone felt it. The change came without ceremony. Mr. Caldwell was asked to step out of the international program by the end of the week. The decision was posted in a brief notice. No reasons listed, just an update to assignments and oversight. Another instructor took over the partnership review. The corrected translation was issued again, this time with verification attached. The process changed quietly. All future drafts would require cross-checks. Student work would be logged. Demonstrations would no longer move forward without review. The partner institution responded the same day. They acknowledged the correction. They requested the student translator by name for future collaboration. The request went through administration, not the classroom. Maya did not react when the message was read aloud. She did not smile. She did not look around. The shift showed in smaller ways. A chair was left open beside her. A worksheet was placed on her desk without comment. Eyes followed, then stopped. Mr. Caldwell did not return to that room. His name was removed from the program listing. The board was erased and rewritten by someone else. The example was gone. The class moved forward under new rules. The correction stood. The recognition was logged. Maya gathered her things when the bell rang. She paused once at the door, not to look back, but to wait as the room cleared. When she stepped into the hall, the space ahead was open. What she chose to do next was not announced. The system had already answered its part. The hallway was quieter than the classroom had been all period. Lockers clicked shut. Footsteps passed and faded. No one called after her name. No one needed to. Maya walked toward the exit with the document tucked under her arm. The corrected version now official. The laughter from earlier did not follow. Neither did the voice that tried to frame her. Behind her, the room reset itself. New rules. New oversight. A different center of gravity. She pushed the door open and stepped outside. The air shifted. The noise dropped to nothing. The power did not announce itself. Simply moved. And for the first time that day, nothing stood in her way.